so lonely, being the only microwavable and incredibly bold soup in a pouch that's ready to eat in minutes. Maybe someday the genius who created me will make me some friends. Oh, gesundheit. Someday.
Campbell's Go. Flavors so bold, they can't be ignored.
Here's Sports Director Beasley Reese.
When Andy Reid took over the Philadelphia Eagles, they were in a three-way tie for worst team in the NFL.
This is the future right now. Everybody in here has to understand that. And now we're into the Andy Reid factor here.
2 years later, they finished 11-5 and in the playoffs. His Philadelphia story reads like a riveting sports novel. From the high of the 2004 Super Bowl to astounding lows that bottomed out with the death of a son at training camp. Along the way, he took his teams to the playoffs 9 times, including 5 NFC championship games and 1 agonizing drive from a Super Bowl title. Although he leaves with the most wins in franchise history, his journey ends unfulfilled. Andy did not win the big one. So what went wrong? Perhaps he gave us the best he has to offer, and a parade down Broad Street will be the job for another man. He lost his best assistants to greater opportunities. 6 of his coaches went on to become head coaches. There was the death of his best man, Coach Jim Johnson.
When you lose the strength of your so-called foundation, your tree, which were your assistant coaches, I think that affects what happens in the classroom, on the field, in the draft rooms.
There were decisions that defy explanation, like the promotion of his offensive line coach to run his defense. There's evidence that the inmates were running the prison. Pro Bowl players suddenly forgot how to play. 2 coaches unceremoniously fired while his team spiraled downward. Although many fans celebrate this new beginning, Reid's players struggle to find words to describe their time with Andy Reid.
You gonna make me get emotional on TV?
It often ends badly in sports, so Andy Reid moves on, leaving a big act to follow, the greatest era in Eagles football history.
Taking over 7 Indianapolis public schools.
Parents in Bridgeport are putting up a fight over the state's takeover. Forcibly take over management at poorly performing schools.
Try to stop a possible state takeover of Union High School.
After every mass killing like the one at Sandy Hook Elementary, the questions are inevitable. Where did the shooter get the guns? Were they legal? Should they be? All questions lead back to the Second Amendment.
So what did it mean to bear arms in 1791 when the amendment was adopted and the firearm of choice was a musket?
At the time, the U.S. had just fought the Revolutionary War, beating back the British. Kermit Roosevelt is a constitutional law expert.
The Second Amendment could be understood to enshrine that kind of understanding. Citizen militias will fight back against an oppressive general government.
But there is a second popular interpretation.
Is that it protects an individual right, so the right of individual people to keep guns, typically for self-defense.
And that has been the interpretation of some of the most recent Supreme Court decisions, including decisions in 2008 and 2010 that limit state and local government controls on gun ownership. During his speech at a vigil in Newtown, President Obama promised to use the power of his office to prevent incidents like this in the future.
With respect to gun control generally, the president's powers are actually quite limited, not so much because of the amendment, but because of our system of separation of powers. So to change our gun control laws, you need a new law. And Congress is the part of our government that makes laws.
To amend the Constitution, 2/3 of Congress and 3/4 of the states must approve, so it's not easy. But rights are not without limits.
No right is absolute. So just about any constitutional right, if the government has a sufficient justification, it can be limited.
That is the role of the Supreme Court, which is not known for rushing such decisions.